Welcome to A Leader's Journey, the podcast for leaders who deeply believe there is a better way to lead and desire to create their unique journey towards becoming a legacy leader. I'm your host, Shannon Hammond. Over the last 20 years as a corporate leader and leadership performance coach, I've learned that many leaders believe there is a predefined path they have to follow and struggle leaning into their unique gifts that will create lasting impact and fulfillment. They end up feeling stuck, unhappy, and unfulfilled in the day-to-day of their role, and are challenged with why, since they have experienced success in their career and in life. I'm here to help leaders think through their leadership journey, learn how to ask themselves better questions, and learn the formula to create their leadership journey by design. If you are ready to design your unique leadership journey, lead with confidence, and love the teams you lead, then you are in the right place. Let's do this. Hello, my friends and fellow leaders. I'm glad to have you back here with me this week. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, welcome. I'm happy you are here. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about performance reviews. I know it's June and you're probably focused on balancing summer time off amongst your team at the peak of many projects that you've been working on this year, planning your own personal vacations and time off, and really just don't want to think about performance reviews right now. Or you may even be shocked that it's June already because this year has flown by. But this is a critical topic for us to talk about, and there's no better time to do it than now because you don't want to just start thinking about it when you are sitting down to write your team's annual performance reviews. Now, some of you might be writing annual reviews right now because your review cycle runs on a fiscal year. Some of you are completing mid-year reviews for your calendar year cycle. And in some organizations, you may not have a formal review process. Regardless of where you are at, what I share with you today will help you prepare for your current or upcoming reviews. Performance reviews are a critical responsibility of a leader. This is a time when you are sitting down with your employees, discussing their performance. Well, you are already doing this in your ongoing one-on-ones, and if you're not, you should be. Those are typically a more casual conversation, while a performance review meeting is a more formal conversation. This is a time when your team member is going to be paying close attention to what you have to share and may be more engaged or invested in the conversation since it is a formal conversation. In many organizations, this may also be the only piece of documentation that goes in your team member's employee file for the year, outside of any disciplinary action, and may be tied to their annual raise. And when you are talking about money, even if it's not a driving factor for an individual, they are going to pay close attention. Performance reviews may also be reviewed by a hiring manager when your team member applies for another position within your organization. And on a more personal level, it's a written document by the employee's leader that reflects your point of view on how that person performed throughout the year. It's going to highlight what they did well, where they experienced growth, their accomplishments, areas they may have been challenged in and have more work to do, and where they fell short for meeting the expectations. It's a deeply personal experience, and every employee wants to know their manager truly did see and recognizes the work they did throughout the year. Performance reviews is something I'm deeply passionate about and take very seriously in my role as a leader. I never want an employee to walk away from that conversation thinking that I didn't see their work or progress, feeling like they don't matter to me or the organization, or feeling like they were completely blindsided by what I had to share. My passion around performance reviews comes from truly caring about the growth and development of my team members. But I'm not going to lie, it also comes from a poor experience I had with one of my performance reviews back in 2006. Now, I know you may be thinking, geez, Shannon, that was almost 20 years ago. You really need to let that go. And you'd be right. There are aspects of it that I have let go. But it's also a critical turning point in my journey that I'm so grateful happened to me just a little over a year into my leadership journey. And it's a big part of my leadership story. and why, when I work with new leaders, we spend a lot of focused, intentional time talking about the importance of performance reviews. And when I write them for my team, I ensure that is the best work that I completed the entire year. I owe it to my team, and they deserve nothing but my best when it comes to their performance review. Now, I do want to jump back to 2006 and elaborate a little bit on that experience to highlight for you why I'm passionate about it and how I got to where I'm at today as it relates to performance reviews. Now, that year, my performance review was an exact copy of my performance review from the year before. Word for word, rating for rating, literally a duplicate that appeared to have had just the year changed at the top, and the statistical data was updated for the current year. Every other section of my review had the exact same ratings and comments as the year before. Sitting in that meeting, I was shocked and crushed. I couldn't believe what I was reading, to the point that I had to set it down for several days and come back to it to make sure I wasn't looking at it wrong. I knew in that moment that my performance wasn't an exact duplication from the prior year. No one's ever is. I had grown a lot during my second year as a leader. I had hit incredible milestones within my team, completed 2 really big projects that had big impacts on our business, and completely turned around the perception my internal partners had of my team at that time. My team had worked so hard and they had accomplished so much, and so had I, and not one word of it was included in my review. I'm sure my leader at the time had their reasons. We did talk about it, and I understood their error. And in case you were thinking they just printed out the wrong one or saved a wrong copy, unfortunately, that wasn't what happened. They really did copy and paste my review from the year before. But there are some things that we can't undo, no matter how hard we try and how many times we apologize. When I was sitting there and realized what was happening, those are feelings that you just don't erase. And you can't take that moment back. All you can do as a leader in that situation is admit your error, ask for forgiveness, and respect the other person's feelings, no matter what they are. It was at that moment that I had made a commitment to myself that no matter what I had going on as a leader, I would never take shortcuts on performance reviews for my team. I spent the next several years trying out different techniques and methods for preparing and writing performance reviews. I read several books on the topic. A couple of them I still do use today to learn how to take better notes and to write more professionally. I read back through prior year reviews that I had done and critiqued myself. I had red pen all over them, marking up what I felt were areas of opportunity for me and highlighting things that I felt like I had written very well into their reviews. I took the time to talk with other leaders who had been in their role longer than me to learn what did they do to prepare and write their reviews. I would ask them about their favorite statements, how they would say the same things in different ways, and what they felt was the most important aspect in the review. I even asked my employees for feedback on the quality of their review. How accurately did they feel it reflected their performance? What were they glad to see in their review? What they wished wasn't there? And what they felt that I had missed? I dove all in and studied the art of performance reviews, and it truly is an art. It's like writing a short story about someone you know. Every year I was making tweaks to my process until I found my groove, and that was a magical moment for me. I knew I was on to something when the time that it had taken me to write 12 performance reviews was less than 12 hours. That's less than 1 hour per review. And when I first started writing performance reviews, it took me 8 hours per review. I had cut that down to 4 hours with some of the changes that I had implemented, and now I was down to less than 1 hour. What? It was the most incredible and amazing experience. I know that writing performance reviews is a stressful time for many leaders. It probably comes at the end of the year, which may be the busiest time of year at work, and then you have all of the holiday and end of year personal commitments. That does make time very limited. You also have to figure out how to get them done during the week, along with all the other work that's on your plate that you struggle to manage on a week-to-week basis when you don't have to write reviews. This is very common amongst leaders, especially newer leaders, as this is another new aspect of leadership that you have to learn. No worries, my friends. I got you, because I'm going to share with you what I currently do to prepare and write performance reviews for my team. As with everything I share with you, take what serves you and leave behind what doesn't. Give yourself grace as you try to implement these steps, because you won't perfect them right out of the gate. It took me years to get to this point. So while I know if you implement these steps, your performance reviews this year will be better than last year, and you will feel more prepared and confident, less stressed and worried, and you won't be spending every hour of the month, or so it seems, writing reviews. You may also find aspects you want to tweak to make it work best for you. Go for it. Do what works for you, not just to get your reviews done, but for you to feel good, energized, engaged, and less stressed. Oh, easy for me to say, less stressed while going through the process. So here are 6 steps or tips for preparing for and writing your performance reviews. Again, this is the process that I follow today and have used for about the last 10 or so years. It has made the performance review process so much easier for me, and it's something that I actually look forward to each year. So let's dive in. Step 1, you need to have a note-taking system that is set up with your review criteria. You're probably like, well, duh, of course you need to take notes. Yes, but I'm not talking about just taking notes. I'm talking about an intentionally created system that includes all the key aspects you need to be aware of throughout the year in order to be prepared to write a review. This system should include a setup for every section of the performance review, whether that's job duties, competencies, company values, goals, etc., whatever it is that your organization measures for the performance review process. Having individualized sections set up allows you to be intentional about where you add your notes. You'll be able to see where a person is excelling and see where you need to put your attention regarding their performance. If you have a lot of notes in one section, you can see that your focus is there, and you may have an accurate representation of their work in that specific area. Yet if you have an area where you have no notes, you as the leader may not be focused and looking for how that individual is performing in that area. This will help you shift your focus and start looking for examples of their performance in that specific area. What you focus on, you find. So it holds you accountable to creating a holistic view of their performance. It also helps you stay focused when you are writing the review, because you are able to focus and work on one area at a time and not get distracted by your notes regarding other areas of their performance. For me, my preference for this is OneNote. I have a OneNote notebook for employee performance notes, and each employee on my team has their own section within that notebook. Within that section, I have pages designed and designated to their specific job duties, their goals, and each competency my organization measures. I even go as far as to create pages for each year and have my detailed pages marked as subpages so that I could collapse the prior year and only focus on the current year. One year I had a paper notebook for each person, and while I'm glad that I tried it, it's not a system I would recommend. It's very manual, and then you're flipping through all of these pages. Trying to find a digital system is really what worked best for me, because it allowed me to search and be able to have everything right at my fingertips, especially working in a hybrid environment when you're part-time at home and part-time in the office. My notes easily went with me wherever it is that I went and had my laptop. I encourage you to find a system, though, that works for you, whatever that may happen to be, but you need to have a system in place for your notes throughout the year. Step 2 is to take weekly performance notes. I know it might sound excessive, but at a minimum, you need to be taking weekly performance notes for each person on your team. If you'd prefer to do it daily, you could, but it needs to be done at least weekly. This should be blocked time on your calendar, like any other meeting you have, and it should be a recurring event so you're less inclined to skip it or schedule something over that time, and it's consistently on your calendar every single week. For me, I like to do this on Friday mornings. I've tried different days throughout the week, and Friday just works best for the way that my organization runs and the way that I like to organize my notes and stuff for myself. They're typically a little bit slower as well, and it allows me to review my notes from the entire week. And I wrap up Fridays being able to leave that week there and not carry it into Monday of the next week. There are also times when I add notes to my OneNote in the moment, especially if I have a couple minutes and I just had a conversation with somebody. I like to knock it out while it's fresh in my mind and have it there inside my notes. When you are adding these notes to your note-taking system, write the notes as if you are writing it in their performance review. That's right. Don't just jot down a couple quick thoughts and bullet points, a case or a reference number, or something that you hope reminds you of the situation. This is not that time to write in bullet points. This needs to be a complete professional sentences as if it was the end of the year and you are writing it on their review, not just in your note-taking system. I know it sounds silly, but I promise you that investing these couple extra seconds or minutes now will save you a ton of time at the end of the year. By writing your notes as if you were writing it into the review, when it comes time to do the actual review, you can just copy and paste those sentences right into your performance review. You don't have to remember what the exact situation was. You can just pick and choose things from your notes, copy paste, and you're good to go. So make sure that you have those weekly performance notes and make sure that when you are documenting your notes, you're writing them in the same exact format as if you were writing it into the review. Step number 3 is to take excellent one-on-one notes. One-on-ones are a great time to share feedback with your team members. If you're having regular, consistent one-on-ones, you're probably talking about what happened in the week or 2 weeks prior. They may have accomplishments and wins that they want to share with you during that time. You will have observations that you're going to share with them, and it's a dialogue about their performance that you're having weekly or bi-weekly. Having excellent one-on-one notes allows you to take some of the wins that your team shared with you and add it to your review notes. You'll remember what you discussed session to session, and you'll be able to see the progression in their performance when you look back through your one-on-one notes. My one-on-one notes have saved me time and time again, especially as my teams grew. When you are one leader of 8 or more team members, you can't remember what each person did over the course of the year, and your one-on-one notes will keep you informed and give you reminders to be able to fall back on. My team always asks me how I remember specific situations, and I always tell them it's because of my notes. When leaders are trying to remember what 18 to 15 people do, or 8 to 15 people do every week, it gets tough and you can't remember all of that. So having excellent notes from your one-on-ones gives you those things that you'll review when you do your weekly notes to be able to extract things from that are relevant to their performance. Step or tip number 4 is to provide timely feedback. I can't stress this one enough. Giving timely feedback on what your team members are doing well and where they need to improve is crucial to the performance review. Provide feedback timely in the moments that things are happening. My suggestion is within 24 to 48 hours of you knowing about their actions. You could also revisit or recap some of these conversations during your one-on-ones. If you are seeing patterns in their behaviors and actions, be sure to share those as well. It helps you and them see their behaviors over the course of the weeks and the months throughout the year. Don't wait until the quarterly or annual review discussions. This is the worst thing that you can do. Imagine during an annual performance review, you tell an employee that they have not been meeting expectations for the entire year in a key area of their role. They'll feel blindsided, like you've been setting them up to fail all year. If you don't address misses in their performance as they are happening, you're not giving them the opportunity to make changes to their behaviors. And more than likely, they didn't know they were missing the mark, especially if you don't address it. When you don't tell someone their behavior doesn't align with expectations, then you are telling them that they are meeting expectations. When you recognize what they are doing well as throughout the year, you are reinforcing those behaviors and telling your team members what they need to continue doing. So be certain you are giving them feedback timely, both constructive feedback and positive feedback, so you reinforce the behaviors that you want to see from them. And then when it comes time for your performance review, nothing is a surprise. Tip number 5, or step 5, is to complete a verbal quarterly review or recap with your team. This kind of ties into giving your team timely feedback, right? Consistently discussing the performance with your team prevents surprises, and it allows you to check in with them on what they've done that particular quarter. This is also a great time to revisit expectations and what is measured on the performance review, because let's be honest, in most situations, the review is a document that is reviewed once a year. And people forget what is on it. And if it's not in front of us regularly, we are going to forget. That goes for our team, and that goes for us as leaders. There is so much that is coming at us all the time. We need reminders. And this also ties back, like I said before, to providing that timely feedback, as you're able to discuss their performance, their progression quarter to quarter, and give them the opportunity to make adjustments where they need to, and to continue with the positive behaviors, so that way they know that when they are doing something that is meeting expectations, they know to continue that. It also helps your team members know that performance is measured all year round. It's easy for us to forget that performance is measured for an entire year. And when I look at many reviews that leaders have completed, they're highlighting things that happened in the 1 to 2, maybe 3 months prior to when the review was written. It's normal for us to just look at where we are at now, and we may forget that we had challenges in a key area earlier in the year, and that while we made progress and had grown throughout the year, that may not have been the story for the entire year. So we want to make sure that we highlight that. Doing a verbal quarterly review also allows you to pretty much prep your reviews and write them each quarter. You can pick the highlights and the most important events from that quarter, discuss them with your team member, and add them to your notes. You're basically writing the annual review quarter to quarter, so when you get to the end of the year, it could be as easy as making some minor adjustments to better organize the story that you are wanting to tell. And you're also organizing your notes while the events are fresh in your mind, because again, you are one person trying to document 8 or more individuals' actions throughout the year. For me, I do these recaps in my first one-on-one of each quarter, and it usually takes up to 5 to 10 minutes of the one-on-one, because we are touching base on the highlights of their performance. They don't take too much time to prepare either, because I've been making my notes week to week in my normal weekly performance notes. They are casual conversations, and my team knows to expect them. If there are improvements that need to be made, we discuss those, and we set small goals and milestones to achieve over the course of the new quarter, so they're chipping away at their growth in realistic chunks. The key is to not overcomplicate it. Keep it simple, yet meaningful, yet have the conversation. And the last tip that I want to share with you is to make sure that when you are putting together your performance review, you are providing specific examples from across the entire year. When you are making your notes and you're writing your reviews, you need to include specific examples of their performance from across the entire year, not just the last couple months. When you include examples from different parts of the year, you are showing your team you were paying attention all year, not just the couple months before reviews. It reinforces that performance is measured all year. And it's incredible to see your team members' reactions when you highlight something they did 8 months ago. In my experience, they are always pleasantly surprised. It reminds them of a positive impact that they had on another person, and they love that you remembered what they did. It's also important if they were consistently not meeting expectations or had inconsistent performance throughout the year. Because remember, you're telling the story of progression throughout the year, not just where they are at the time that you were writing the review. Specific examples also allows your team members to see exactly how their performance did or did not meet expectations, because you are showing and telling them the exact behaviors that did or did not meet those expectations. Whenever we paint a clear picture by giving an example of their specific actions, it's telling someone, here's what you need to do, and here's what not to do. It paints the pictures of behaviors that are specific to their role, specific to them because they are situations that they are familiar with, and that you're not just giving them a generalization of what, say, problem solving, for example, might actually look like. You're demonstrating to them how they actually worked through a specific situation and appropriately exercised their problem solving skills. So those are the 6 steps that I use that help me prepare and write my performance reviews. At the end of the year, an employee's performance review should just be an annual recap of the conversations you've been having with them throughout the year. It's like the highlight reel in sports. You've watched the game, and then there's a highlight reel of the key moments that already happened and that have been seen. This is a review. It's a highlight reel. There should be no surprises because you've already discussed all the key points in the review, the good and the constructive. If you are taking these actions throughout the year, you are writing the reviews as you go, so you can easily copy and paste, make some adjustments, and your reviews are done before you know it. Reviews don't have to be stressful, time-consuming, and something that you dread each year. You just have to make the choice to be intentional in taking action on them throughout the year. You have to choose to want and be willing to do the work to have a stress-free, efficient, and joyful time writing reviews. It's all within your control, and I know that you can do it. And if you are thinking, OMG, it's June, and I haven't done any of this, no worries. You can start now. Take intentional blocked time to get your notes for the first half of the year organized and updated. You'll be thanking yourself in a few months for doing this work now because you are recapping half the year, and so you're halfway to writing your annual performance reviews. And I just want to add one last thing, and while it's not part of the 6 steps that I shared, a big part of making your performance reviews a stress-free and joyful experience is how you go into thinking about them. It's your mindset around the performance reviews. And when you're telling yourself a positive story about it and you've been doing the work to prepare, you're going to know and believe that you have set yourself up for success throughout the year to be able to provide an excellent performance review to your employees. I'd love to know what you are currently doing to prepare for your reviews and any tips you have on what you found to work for you and set you up for a successful review process. If you are struggling, share what you are struggling with and what your biggest challenges are with reviews. And let me know which of these tips you feel might help you work through those struggles. Reviews are tough, and it may take you a few years to get into a groove that works for you. I'm here to help you in any way that I can. So connect with me on LinkedIn or in my leader community on Facebook. You've got this, and I believe in you, and you too can have a wonderful performance review season at the end of the year. Now that's a wrap for this week. Until next time, lead with confidence and show up every day as the leader you are striving to be. Thanks for listening to A Leader's Journey podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're excited to learn more, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tune in next week for another exciting leadership lesson. I'd love to help you level up your leadership, achieve the goals you desire, and design your unique leadership journey. So click the link in the show notes to schedule a free Level Up Your Leadership session. During this time, we will define where you are in several key areas of leadership, where you desire to be, and how you can level up your leadership. You don't need to do this alone, so let's chat today and get your journey started. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn or in the A Leader's Journey community on Facebook, and share this episode with another leader so we can all learn and grow together. That's all for this episode, and I'll see you next week. Until then, lead with confidence, show up every day as the leader you are striving to be, and make the decision today to level up your leadership this year.